This is a $1,000 mastering chain that I use on nearly every song that I make. And this is Slate Virtu, which is Slate's new all-in-one mastering solution that promises professional masters within minutes. Slate Digital is known to have a slew of high-quality plugins that you can get for $15 a month, and I use them pretty regularly on a lot of the tracks that I make. But I wanted to see how this new mastering solution from Slate would stack up with my $1,000 mastering chain. So in this video, I'm going to be using a pop punk song that I recently made and comparing how it sounds using each of these two mastering methods. So can Slate Virtu, their new all-in-one mastering solution, really be the only tool you need to produce professional release-ready tracks? Well, let's find out together. All right, so let's listen to the song that we're going to be experimenting with. This is a pop punk song that I created called Take It Slow.
We just need to escape this place. I go back to the rail drive all night, cruising with my destiny.
All right, now let's go over what's actually on my mastering chain. So it looks like there's a lot on here, but not all of these are affecting the sound, and some of them aren't even related to mastering at all. But the first one here, the black box, now I'm not a mastering engineer, so I don't really know what the technicalities of what these actually do. All I do is listen to how they affect the mix and think, oh, that sounds good. And so this adds a little bit of saturation to help glue things together. Sounds really nice. The Shadow Hills mastering compressor is just a pretty famous mastering compressor that a lot of mastering engineers will use. So I use it to, again, glue things together. Drummer S73, I don't entirely know what this is, but it makes the mixes sound really damn good. It adds, really the best way I can describe it is it adds just a bunch of clarity to the track. And so I use it on pretty much everything. And the next thing I use is Ozone. Ozone, if you don't know, does a bunch of different things to help master a track. It's kind of like an all-in-one solution, but I do it at the end of the mastering chain, largely for maximizing the sound and loudness. And then for even more loudness, I use the vintage limiter from Ozone. And again, that's really just to bump up the loudness to make it more commercial sounding and competitive sounding. The rest of them that I have on here aren't affecting the sound at all. Insight 2 is just for metering and figuring. I mostly use just this loudness feature here to see what the LUFs are for my track. And then the last two things here aren't pertinent to mastering at all. This is just to allow me to stream audio from my DAW to OBS, and Mixtool, I just happen to be automating the volume in one section of the song. All right, so now what we're going to be doing is testing out Slate Virtu. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to export a version of this song that doesn't have any of the mastering effects on it. And so I've already taken the liberty of doing that, and so I have it here, Take It Slow, unmastered WAV file. That's what we're going to be using. And so as we see here, this is Slate Virtu, and then if we go to the dashboard, this is what it looks like when we're actually in Slate Virtu, and I've never used this, so we're going to be discovering this together. All right, so let's take the unmastered track and drop it in here. All right, so it's a pop punk song, so I'm gonna put rock and we'll go from there. And because it's a rock song, let's just do loud just to see what happens. There's advanced controls, let's see what that is. So I adjust the frequency balance. I think for now, I'm not really going to adjust any of this at the moment. Now I think there's a way I can preview. Yes, I can preview this. So let's see what this sounds like with loud and rock on. To me, it sounds at first glance maybe a little bit too over compressed. I don't know if that's just what the preview sounds like or if that's what it'll actually sounds like. Let me go to medium here for the loudness target and see if that changes anything. So to me, that sounds cleaner to me. So let's roll with that and master it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new track in Studio One. And what we'll do is we'll use that insight metering thing to look at the loudness of each of the tracks, as well as just see which one just sounds better to our ears. I'll give you my thoughts, but then I'll be curious to hear what your thoughts are. All right, so it took about a minute for Slate Virtu to finish mastering the track. So I went ahead and I downloaded it, and then I created 2 new tracks on the project. So this track here is the song that was mastered using my mastering chain, and then this track is the song that was mastered using Slate Virtu. Now, the thing that is immediately shocking to me is just by looking at these waveforms, I can tell that the Slate Virtu track is louder than mine. That's surprising to me, considering that we didn't even pick the loud setting for the mastering options. We just picked medium. Now, I'm going to be playing both of these back, just kind of toggling back and forth. All of the effects on my mix bus are turned off, except for restream, so that you can actually hear what's going on. So let's listen to a quieter section of the song, and then we'll listen to the last chorus, and we can see which one we end up liking better.
Let's run away for the weekend. Maybe we could go where we first met. Rewind back to better seasons. Lying there, laughing for no reason. Laughing for no reason.
All right, so as I figured with looking at the waveforms, the Slate Virtu definitely sounds louder. It potentially sounds more just full and thicker as well, but again, kind of hard to tell because that could just be placebo effect from it being louder. The clarity I felt like was comparable between the two, but overall, as of just listening to this quieter intro and verse section, I'm pretty impressed with what Slate Virtu has done considering how just simple it is. All right, let's listen to the last chorus since there's a lot going on, and then compare that section. And same thing, we'll just kind of toggle back and forth.
We just need to escape this place. Echo bags and then we'll drive all night. Cruising with no destination. Doesn't matter where we go as long as you're here. Let's take this place. Echo bags and then we'll drive all night. Cruising with no destination. Doesn't matter.
All right, so the main thing I notice with this is that Slate Virtu adds quite a bit more low end than what my mastering chain has. And right now I'm just obviously listening through headphones, so I'd be curious to see how that sounds in different environments like my car, to see if that's too much low end or if it was something that I needed in my track. It's a little hard for me to determine at this point. One thing that I do feel like my mastering chain has an advantage over is I do feel like, especially in this louder part of the song, the vocals in this song have more clarity in the version that is using my mastering chain. I feel like there is a bit more just higher end sparkle that's missing from Slate Virtu. And that could just be because the beefiness of the low end of Slate Virtu is kind of offsetting the high end there. But I do prefer the clarity of my mastering chain versus Slate Virtu. In this louder section of the song, I don't necessarily hear a huge difference in loudness, but just because I'm curious, let's look at, I put Insight on here, and let's look at what the LUFS happen to be and get a quick comparison as far as that goes.
This place, echo bags and then we'll drive all night, cruising with no destination, doesn't matter.
All right, so mine is at the track that uses my mastering chain is around -10 LUFS, which is what I engineered it to be. That's what I was aiming for. So now I'm curious. Let's see what Slate's loudness is.
This place, echo bags and then we'll drive all night, cruising with no destination, doesn't matter where we go as long as you're.
All right, so it looks like Slate was using a target of -9 LUFS. I don't know if that's the target they would use for any song that is sent through their mastering, but definitely objectively a louder track. But I'm curious from you, like, which one of these do you feel like sounded better overall? Some of you are going to be listening on different speakers, and I'm curious to see which one do you feel like sounded better overall. If you're curious, my opinion, I think I still prefer my mastering chain simply because I just prefer the clarity that mine has. Even though Slate Virtue's is louder, I mean, I can just adjust my limiter to make it louder so that it matches Slate Virtue. I do kind of like the punchiness that Slate Virtu has, especially in this loud chorus. But the thing that I don't like is I feel like it does kind of detract from that higher end sparkle and clarity that my mastering chain has. So those are my thoughts. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with Slate Virtu, especially considering it's easy as hell to use. It took 2 button clicks to produce a track that is pretty damn good. And honestly, I would be totally content and happy releasing the track using Slate Virtu. So I honestly thought going into this that it wasn't going to be that good. I thought that it was going to be a lot quieter of a track than using the mastering method that I did. So, I mean, I think it's very, very competitive. So if you are someone who does subscribe to Slate and you don't have a lot of mastering plugins, hell, you could probably just use this and you could make some really solid tracks using it. Now, I really didn't go over the settings of each of the plugins of my mastering chain, so if you're interested in that, I'm going to be making a future video about that, and when that becomes available, you can check that out right here. And be sure to subscribe if you found this video to be helpful, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.